All right, guys. So today we're going to look at using Bricks standard functionality to create a access control system for content. So this is not to provide access or block access to an entire page. This is for blocks of content. And the way I'm doing this is I'm going three different at the moment. You can add as many as you like. Three different password levels. And what I mean by that, if we look at our access control, which is a meta box settings page, it could be ACF, could be whatever you like. We have password levels. So we got level 1, 2, and 3. Each of these with their own passwords. For simplicity, I've just made it MB password 1, MB password 2, and MB password 3. And my silly keeper thing keeps getting in the way here. Sorry, guys. So I've made it really, really simple for this demonstration. So we've got 3 levels of password. I've then put some content on the page and restricted it based on which level of password authenticated. So showing you there, so if I put in some random text and press enter, I get sorry, wrong password, I get no content. If I put in MB password 1, so I get a message to say, great job, you authenticated at level 1. It then does a redirect, which is another action. It shows me my section here, which is saying that it has to have level 1. So this will only show if the level is 1. And we've also got a section here which is showing if it is greater than equal to 1. All right. Now if I do a MB password 2, good job, level 2. Now I get my level 2 content. Plus I get my content for another section here, which is anything that is level 1 or greater. So level 2 is level 1 or greater. And we also get our content for anything that is level 2 or greater. Or up to level 2, I should say, or less. So that's what we get there. And if I put my password 3, so MB password there, good job, level 3. So I get my level 3 content, but I don't see the level 1 or level 2 only ones. And then I get my everything that's 1 or higher, everything that's 2 or higher, and everything that's 3 or higher. All right, so I'm going to show you what I mean by that. So I've got one that says it has to be level 3. Okay, if it is level 2, this won't show. And I've got one here that'll show if there's anything up to level 3. All right, now I'm going to add a password. I'm going to call this a level 4 password. And we'll make that MB password 4. Back here, and we're going to do MB password 4. Okay, and what we'll see here is we don't get our level 1, level 2, or level 3 content, but we get all of our content here, which is up to whatever our current level is. So we're on level 4 at the moment. So we get all the stuff that's up to level 3, up to 2, and up to 1. So that's the concept of it. Okay. How this works in the editor, we have a simple form. The form has 2 actions, which is a custom and a redirect. The redirect is really simple. It's basically just redirecting to our post URL at this stage. You might do this differently. You might have this as a separate page or a pop-up and redirect to wherever you want. But at the moment, I just want the page to refresh on a successful password. Okay, and then in our actions, we've got a custom action. I'll show you how that works shortly. So if we look at the fields, we have our password field, which we've actually given the name password, so we can refer to as that in our code. And we've got a hidden field, which is called protect_content, just set to true. And what we're going to do with our custom action is we make sure this exists. If it doesn't exist, then that's not for us. Then we just move on. With you look at the codex for Bricks, the custom action doesn't have anything to determine which action it's for or which form it's for. You've got to determine that by looking at the actual fields or settings in your form. Okay, so that's pretty much it for the form. I'll come back to how that works. Now we've got a section here, and you see these have all got conditionals. So on the conditionals for that one, I'm looking at, I'm going to zoom in a little bit on that. So I'm using the echo function in Bricks dynamic data, and I'm looking at this WPE get content protection level. So that's going to get whatever level we authenticated with. And if it equals 1, we're going to display that section there. And for the next one, it's got to be equal to 2. Next one, it's got to be equal to 3. Now the next one is we're saying if it's greater than or equal to 1. So 0 or 1. 1, actually this should be the same as 1. So equal to 1 should be the same thing. But when we get to the level 2, for example, we're saying it's going to be anything that is greater than or equal to 2. So it's going to show if our access level is level 2, level 3, level 4, level 5, this will show. Okay, so the difference between that one and this one here is that one there says it has to be level 2. So if it's level 1, level 3, level 5, whatever, that doesn't show. Whereas on the one down here, this is saying it's got to be greater than or equal to 2. So it'll show if the level, won't show for level 1, it'll show for level 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, etc. Sorry, other way around. It won't show for, it'll show for level 1 and level 2, but it won't show for 3, 4, 5, 6, etc. Okay, sorry, I misspoke with that one. That's the idea, all right? So we're controlling all of these just by using a level number and a same function deciding whether it's going to be equal to that or greater than and equal to that. Okay, that is the nuts and bolts of it. So let's have a look at the code. Now, before I look at the code, I'm just going to explain something. Initially, when I looked at this, I was thinking I was just going to use some PHP Sessions or use the WordPress session handler. Looking at some documentation and a lot of forums, it's a bad idea because there's a lot of servers or hosts that are not configured properly for PHP Sessions, so they're unreliable. So what we need to do is create a table to track something with this user. Now we could all do all sorts of things, like we could create a unique ID in the for that user for that session, and then just keep a table with that. I just decided to go with their IP address. Now I know if you're in an office or a shared IP location, once you authenticate, everyone at that location gets the same authentication. So it's not ideal for that. It's not really individualized to the browser or the user. It's their IP address that they're connecting from. So just be aware of that. This is a quick and easy way of doing it. And most people are going to be connecting from a single user from a single IP. So I don't think it's going to be too much of a drama. All right, for a simple process. Okay. So here we go. So that said, what we're going to do is look at the code here. And so what I've done here is I've created a function called maybe create IP tracking table. And this is going to use standard WordPress functionality. And what we're going to do is look for our table called WPE IP tracker. If it doesn't exist, we're going to create it. So basically we're telling it to show the tables. If the table name exists, then, sorry, if the table name does not exist, then we're going to run through all this here and we're going to create the table. And what we end up with is a table like this. We get an ID, create time, uptime, IP, and auth level. And if you have a look at these here, our create time is automatically created. When we do this, the update time gets updated on update to the current timestamp. So that is a very simple way of doing that. We've set our IP to a unique property because we only want one row for that IP address. Okay, so we don't want multiple entries for a single IP address. And our auth level just basically doesn't need to be unique at all because it's going to vary per person or per IP. So that's it there. The rest of this you can read up on externally, but that is what you use to create a table in WordPress using their functionality. We then have a function to insert our IP into the tracker. Okay, I'm going to come back to that, and we've got a function here to read our IP auth level based on our IP from that tracker. I'll come back to those. We've then got a function to get passwords. The reason I separate this into a function is because testing, I just created a simple array. Then I ended up creating a MetaBox settings page for this instead. And what I'm doing there is pulling those passwords from that group, looping through it and creating a simple array like this. So if you're not going to use MetaBox, you just want to hard code this, you can just comment out those lines there and just put your passwords in there if you wanted to hard code those into this function. But this gives you the options of doing either. So I'm going to use MetaBox for here, but that's just returning the array. Okay, now we're going to password check action. Okay, now with Bricks, I'm going to scroll down to the bottom here. There is a filter or an action filter here. Bricks form custom action that gets fired when you use your actions here. Whenever your action is custom, it fires that filter there. So when that filter fires, we're going to call our password checker, and the password checker is going to get the passwords from above. Let's get the list of what are our current passwords for the different levels. We're going to get fields, and this is all documented in the Bricks documentation. We're going to get the fields from that form that's passed in from the action. If the the protect content field is not empty, so that is if we have a field here called protect content, then we're going to check the password. Otherwise, we don't do anything here. Okay, that's just a simple way of going, well, we're not going to bother if this is. I can actually probably simplify this too by returning a result early, actually, which I didn't think of. Actually, no, because we want to set our auth level as well. So, all right, so if it's empty, actually, just thinking of that, this logic is wrong, because if it is empty, we don't want to do anything. So I'm going to add a return, if empty, else return, just return, what do we got down here? No, we want to actually do something first. I think we'll just do a return, see what happens with that. Because there might be multiple of these, and we don't want this to interfere with other custom actions. So it's going to return false. I'm not sure if that's correct or not. So if we're not got a form that has this field here, we're just going to return false. Okay, we don't want to return a error or a success because we're not actually doing anything. So hopefully return false will work there. All right, so basically what we're doing is if that protect content field exists, we want to set our provider password to the field passed from this password here. And then we're going to set our auth level to 0. So that's like we're not authenticated. Okay. Now we're going to loop through each of the passwords we got from up here, from our MetaBox in this case. And we're going to get the level and the password. If the provided password equals to the supplied password, we're going to set our auth level to that level. So if, for example, this password here, so the MB password 2 is the password we put in there. So MB password 2, when it loops through these here, it'll find MB password 2, the provider password equals MB password 2. It's going to set our auth level to 2. So that loop there is just setting our auth level based on which password matched the provider password. Okay, if none of them match, then it's auth level is 0. Okay. Now, once we got an auth level, we're going to maybe create the IP tracking table. In fact, do we even need to do that? I think I'm actually might have updated that to. No, we don't need that because I've added it in up here, so we don't even need that anymore. Get rid of that because that's actually part of this function here. So what this is going to do is it gets our auth level. Say our auth level's 2. So insert or update IP tracker calls, insert or update IP tracker with our auth level. So the auth level 2 password passed. We get our table name, we get our remote address. So this is what we're using for our IP. Get our current time. If the table doesn't exist, go and create it. Again, that's because we can't do this on an activate. And we're going to call a replace function to replace the IP address with the auth level. Now, the reason we're using replace and not insert is what replace will do is if we've got a unique field, in this case the IP, if that IP address doesn't exist as a row, it inserts a new row. If the IP address in this case does exist already, it updates the row that has that IP address. So that's what the replace does. So it's a really simple single step, and it's a MySQL function, so it's just abstracted here by WordPress. What we're going to do is replace the IP with the referrer IP and the auth level. That's it. Simply doing that, and we get this here. So example here, if I then change that to, where are we? MB password 1. Okay, MB password 1. Have a look at our table here. Now our IP address is now got auth level of 1. Okay, that's what that does there. So that simple function there to do that. And then I'll come back to this one over here. And then basically, once we've done that, we want to, if the auth level is greater than 0, we're going to then return this result saying it was successful, good job, you authenticated with this auth level. Now, with the Bricks form, when it gets a success, it will then go on to the next action in the list. Okay, so we want to do that, and there's a little slight delay. I'm not sure if you can change that timing or not somehow. But if the auth level is not greater than 0, we're going to say there's a password check error, sorry, wrong password. So let's test that. So if I put in press the enter key, I get a sorry, wrong password. Okay. Now, because it came back with a wrong password, it came back with an error, it doesn't run the next action. Okay. What I could do is if I wanted to, if we wanted this to refresh using that standard setting there, instead of returning an error, we can return a success, which is actually an error. Okay, I'm going to do that as a success. Now this is going to look weird. Okay, now if I do that now and press the enter key, sorry, wrong password, and then it refreshes. Okay, so now I lose my content because it refreshed the page because I had a wrong password, which got rid of my auth. All right. So however you want to do it, it's up to you. But that seems like an easy way to do it. Just that slight delay where you get a green box saying it's a password error might be a little bit deceiving. Okay. So that's all there is to that. All right. So that is the creating the table, inserting our row into the table based on the referrer IP and whatever auth level that we authenticated with by checking the passwords here, and that's it done. All right, now the next bit is the hiding and showing of this content. So let's go to this first one here. Look at our conditionals. There's our conditionals. So we've got a function called WPE get content protection level. Very simple. There's our function there. All it's doing is it's getting our referrer IP from the remote address, getting our auth level calling this function with the referrer IP. Okay, and then we're returning an int casted auth level. So let's have a look at this function here, get auth level by IP. All that does, our IP address, same deal. If the table doesn't exist, create it. And the reason again we're doing that is that we might actually call this dynamic function before we've actually put a password in. We don't want to generate an error. So we'll create the table if it doesn't exist. Then we're going to check that table for a row that has that IP address, which is our referrer IP address, and we're going to get the auth level from that and return that. And that's as simple as that. So it's just a database query, and then we're going to return that there. And then from our builder here, we just basically, all of these conditionals are checking what is the value of that return. So if I put in my password for my number 3 here, so my MB password 3 there, my level is going to be 3. All right, so if I have this one here, which is my level 2, if I've got that set to 2, that's not going to show because I'm saying it's equal to 2. So it has to equal 2. If it's 3, it doesn't show. If it's 1, it doesn't show. If it's 0, it doesn't show. So it's got to be absolutely equal to 2. And we go down to this other one down here. what we're saying there is that same function, all of these have the same function to get the level. It's just how we're treating it here. In this case, we're saying it's got to be greater than 2. Okay, so if it's 1 or it's 2, greater than equal to, so our protection level has to be greater than equal to 2, and that will show the content. All right, and that's pretty much how it works. So hopefully that makes sense. I might share the PHP code box in a gist and put it into the description. The rest of this, if you're doing this kind of thing, you should be able to do this yourself. You should be able to follow this part yourself. You should be able to follow the form part and do that part yourself. So it's basically a simple password with the name of that field password, a hidden field with the name of protect content, underscore content, and that's all that you need to make that form work. And then you've got your actions here, which is basically your custom action, which has no settings. And then your redirect action to what do you want to happen, what kind of redirect do you want to actually happen. All right, and that's all there is to it. So I'll put this into a gist. Hopefully this is something that will be useful to you. Thanks for listening, and hit the subscribe and like if you like this content.